Hello, friends. Are you ready to hear the rest of the tale? Then let us commence. I'm sure you remember, but just in case, last time we ran into the Ragtags, they found themselves in a face-to-face confrontation on a bridge over a crevasse with Hivernaeon, the vengeful Frost, the Lord of Coldmire. And after an unsuccessful attempt at appealing to the Frosty Fae's almost non-existent sense of redemption, a huge battle broke out. In the battle, Regal used the Spring Heart, a magic item which used Hivernaeon's, aka Sir Dermot, an Eladrin knight who betrayed the Spider Queen long ago, heart as a weapon against him. So, after this, and with some doing, the heroes were able to defeat Hivernaeon and his allies. With the vengeful Frost's demise, the land of Coldmire began to thaw, though it seemed like it would take a bit of time to fully return to the verdant splendour of the past. The Ragtags continued across the bridge and out of Coldmire, heading southward toward Minko, who, if you'll recall, was in the city of once-was somewhere further into the realm of Hain. And also toward that nasty and extremely ominous-looking hole in the sky that apparently the Lord Shade Valrillin had opened up and was using to, maybe, suck the essence out of the gate town of Sylvania in the Outlands, where he had set up a puppet government of Archfey, known as the Spiriters, to help facilitate that very thing. Anyway, that's all way too high level to get into at the moment, so let's just focus on the Ragtags' journey, shall we? After crossing out of Coldmire, the companions found themselves moving through a craggy and misty land of narrow paths and shadows that was known as, unsurprisingly, the Craglands. The air was warmer, thankfully, and they made good time. Still, as foggy and creepy as it all seemed, everyone was just happy to be out of the frigid monotony and icy wastes of Coldmire. They also found another O'Regan O'Dale scroll on the way as well. In this one, the story of the Spider Queen's eggs continued, this time from earlier and from before they had hatched. Here we learned that Gwyn Wynne's eggs were taking a long time, too long perhaps, to hatch. This troubled the Spider Queen greatly, and she was sick with worry. Her sister, Morgilla the Black Swan, though jealous of Gwyn Wynne's motherhood, comforted her sibling and told her to not worry, and that the sun would soon warm the eggs, and her children would emerge. And, eventually, one did. Thus, Valrillin was born, and he and his mother immediately formed a deep and powerful bond. So full of joy and pride was Gwyn Wynne that she planted a magical tree that symbiotically drew and fed power to the land, a giant golden-white oak known as the White Arbor. So, while shadows continued to form on the periphery of the idyllic land of Hain, there was a wholeness and happiness there for the time being. That's where the scroll ended this time around. That night at camp, Varys and Regal discussed their dreams of late, and learned that there were similarities that seemed to bear out what they had both suspected. That what they had experienced were probably not dreams at all, and were rather and probably memories of the lost time between going to bed one night and waking up in stasis tanks in an airship above Sigil. When Regal replicated the strange humming both he and Varys had heard in these memories or dreams or whatever, Brace too recognised the melody, and this sparked further discussion, as Brace hadn't, at least not yet, had any dreams or memories of this sort. The next day, despite seeing and hearing giant roaring shadows flying through the misty, uncertain skies, the heroes managed to move quickly and efficiently through the rocky land, leaving the crags and cargs behind them and heading down a slow incline that soon led to a new, larger region. A region they learned from a signpost was known as the Drungamere Swamps. The swamps were a huge, foggy, grey marshland that stretched off for miles upon miles, disappearing into the heavy mists. On the signpost was another of the Bard's scrolls. That's to be expected at this point, yeah? This one was somewhat different, though, as well as the usual delicately penned scroll of epic Fey poetry, there was an extra note, seemingly by the Bard, but of a more personal and candid nature. Written in an almost journal or diary style. In the letter, the Bard wrote,
It pains me to admit that I have been forced to retreat into the depths of Drungomir, seeking refuge amidst the murky waters and tangled vines that shroud this forsaken land. The countryside of Hivernaeon, once a bastion of hope and light, has become overrun with spies and loyalists of Valrilin, their watchful eyes and prying ears ever vigilant in their search for the Lord Shade's enemies. Though I possess what gifts I possess, a talent that has served me well in blending seamlessly when needed, even I am not immune to the relentless pursuit of the Fearsmith's hounds. These sad abominations of Eladrin, twisted and corrupted by Valrilin's dark magic, sniff out my scent with unerring accuracy, their howls echoing through the night like a harbinger of doom. Surprisingly, I have yet to encounter Morgilla's forces or even the Black Swan herself, despite her rumoured presence in the eastern swamps. It seems that she has chosen to remain secluded within her keep, nursing her own wounds and nursing her own grievances, while the world outside crumbles into chaos. But even as I hide in the shadows, a fugitive in my own land, I refuse to succumb to despair, for though the darkness may surround me on all sides, I cling to the flickering flame of hope that burns within my heart, a beacon of light amidst the encroaching gloom. Until the day comes when I can emerge from the shadows and face my enemies head-on, I shall remain here, a ghost in the mist, waiting for the moment when I can once again take up the mantle of heroism and lead the charge against the forces of darkness. Yours, in quiet defiance, the Bard.
There was a lot to take away from that, and of course, while standing around the signpost on the edge of the swamps, the heroes had a, probably too long, conversation taking it all apart. The important points were that they had passed into the domain of Morgilla the Black Swan, such as it now was, and that the Bard was potentially hiding somewhere nearby. So maybe they could find them, and get all the lore about Slanhain/Merkurhain straight from the tap. There were some other points that there just wasn't enough to make any inferences about yet, like, for instance, who was this Fearsmith that was mentioned that was on the trail of the Bard? They seemed like someone or something I personally would want to find out as little as possible about. But maybe that's just me, you know? Of course, there was also the latest scroll to read. This one was called The Waning of the Black Swan, and was of course about Morgilla solely. In the poem, we learn of what happened to Morgilla after the death of her sister Gwyn Wyn, and the subsequent fall of Slanhain. That the Black Swan had, guilt-ridden for her part in the demise of things, hidden herself away in the fenlands and watched them turn to wild and dangerous swamps. And, perhaps somewhat mad now, took to haunting the lonely marshes and even stealing children, though how or why she did this was not clear. From all this, the heroes finally continued on into the swamps with some sense of what they were up against and could potentially achieve here. Eventually something could be seen up ahead, obscured in the misty mucklands, a ruined tower. Just the sort of place a bard on the run might hide out in, eh? Actually, though, in the end it was a bunch of angry and homicidal gargoyles that seemed to be calling this place a home. And soon they were angrily and homicidally attacking the heroes. With little trouble, our companions managed to dispatch the stony enemies and had a look around the crumbled and abandoned watchtower. Okay, I know what you're thinking, and actually no, they did not find another scroll. Or any sign of the Bard whatsoever. Huh, actually that is a little strange, you know? Seems like just the place that Bard likes to leave those, doesn't it? Oh, but they did find a hole into the ground underneath the tower that was covered by a large broken door. And covered recently too. So, of course, the heroes decided to descend into the dark and secret tunnels beneath the ancient ruined Fey Tower in the haunted and misty Drungomir swamps. And that is where we'll come and find them next time, okay?